It is time for our NFL expert picks against the spread, presented by FanDuel. And here is our slate of Week 12 games. Not a huge slate. You see, there's 3 spots they're missing at the bottom. That's because we have 6 teams on byes, including the Buffalo Bills, who just took down the Chiefs for the first time this season. First time in almost a year the Chiefs have lost. They're going to be on the road in Carolina this week on CBS.
Early.
We will start the week with Steelers and Browns Thursday Night Football as we take a peek at how the boys did last week. Kyle upping his lead by yet another game and hitting his best bet again. How about that? 9-2 in best bets. Pete above 500 at 6-5, hitting his best bet, but falling even further behind.
I'm coming. Here I come.
You're coming. You just lost another game, brother.
Well, 6-5 with the best bets. It gets me over 500
All
at
right.
least.
Well, let's get to it. Picks against the spread. Pete Prisco and Kyle Long, and let's kick it off with Thursday Night Football. The Steelers now in the running for that 1 seed in the bye in the AFC. If they win, they would pull even with the Bills, who are idle this week.
Short week. They're hot. Don't make it too complicated here. The Pittsburgh Steelers are a better football team. The number's not crazy. 3.5 points. I love Pittsburgh on the road. Although divisional rivalry, we've seen in weeks past, particularly recently, we've seen in the NFC West, these divisional rivalries, they can be a lot closer than anticipated. But still, that being said, Pittsburgh is going to roll in this one.
I'm on the other side.
What?
And I'm an idiot for probably being on the other side. I just think Russell Wilson hasn't played as good as people portray him as playing. He hasn't.
Still against Russ?
He hasn't. He was bad last week. It was bad quarterback play. Made 1 throw down the field and made
1
one
of 4
dump
on moonballs.
And dump off to Warren turned into a big gain. Other than that, he didn't do anything. Terrible interception in the end zone. He left a lot of pockets with 2 hands on the ball. And I think he's going to struggle here against the Browns. You know, the Browns weren't good last week. Back home, Thursday night, rivalry game. And the number looks so fishy to me. 3.5. I'm taking the points. I'll take the Browns.
What do you think it should be? 5.5?
Yeah,
6?
4.5. Yeah.
Short week. I trust Tomlin on a short week here. I really do.
Tough turnaround in the NFL going out on the road in a short week, though.
100%. Yeah.
Steelers would pull even with the idle Buffalo Bills at 9-2 if they can get this win.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and only be, you know, depending on what the Chiefs do, likely going to be a game behind the Chiefs who play the
Considering I was making fun of Mike Tomlin for taking Justin Fields out of the starting lineup, putting Russell Wilson in. Man, oh man.
But they're good on defense,
like
and they can run the ball, and they're physical. They start 2 rookies on the offensive line, and they get after it.
Well, how about this? You win this week, and you already guarantee that winning season streak to continue in Pittsburgh for Mike Tomlin. Let's go to Sunday Night Football as we pick the primetime games here. It's Eagles -3 in L.A. against the Rams. And Eagles, a lot like the Steelers, coming off a huge divisional victory, and they are sitting pretty right now in the NFC East.
And they're playing good football. Nick Sirianni has them back on track again. For all the criticism the guys like him have been giving Nick Sirianni over the last couple. And deservedly so, by the way. I'm not going to sit here and defend them, but they're playing much better football. They've adjusted to Vic Fangio's defense. The corners are playing outstanding. But I think this is a tough spot for them. Look, the Rams, Sean McVay is a great coach. The Rams, with those receivers being back in the lineup, different offense, I think they'll play well here. I'll take the Rams.
The strong point of that Rams football team, outside of obviously having a great offense with a mastermind at the head coach position, Matt Stafford can distribute the football. I look at the defensive side of the ball. They've gotten a lot of production out of those young players, but when they match up, when anybody matches up against Philadelphia Eagles offensive front, they're behind the 8 ball. So I think that takes away the strength of the Rams team. Obviously, the Philadelphia Eagles have been playing nails offensively and defensively. They've got a true superstar in Saquon Barkley. Don't make it that complicated, guys. It's going to be the Eagles here. It's going to be the Eagles -3.
2 disagreements right out of the gate. I like it.
Are the Eagles the biggest contender to the Lions in the NFC?
Yes.
I think the Packers are.
I think it's the Eagles. I think it's the Eagles.
All right. Packers have close to a toss-up game this week as well that we'll get to in just a little bit. Monday Night Football, it's the Ravens -3 at the Chargers, also in L.A. So we have both primetime games, back-to-back nights in L.A., same stadium. These are the top 2 wild card teams in the AFC right now, and the Chargers actually have a better record.
Yeah, and the Chargers, to me, you know, everybody was saying there, here we go again. They're charging when they're blowing their lead to the Bengals, but they found a way to get out from underneath it, and that's a sign of a good team. A lot of times you get in that situation, you spiral, and it continues to spiral. They came out from underneath it because the coach is so good. The quarterback is so good. The defense had been playing good up until that moment in the second half, but they can regroup. I think what we saw from the Ravens last week offensively was concerning. This is a good defense. Jesse Minter, they know that offense. And I think when you look at it, back-to-back road games for the Ravens, one in a division, tough physical game. Now you got to go back out again, non-division game. That's a big edge for the Chargers. I'll take the Chargers.
When I think about who the Ravens have been historically, it's been a team that'll kick your ass up front. They'll play hard-nosed defense, and obviously they got a quarterback who can do everything with Lamar Jackson. When I look at the Chargers, it's the same exact story about the Chargers, but they're almost doing what the Ravens have done historically better than the Ravens are right now. That's why I've got the Chargers in this one. I think Justin Herbert is a true superstar, one of the very, very top of the leaderboard quarterbacks in the NFL. And obviously Jesse Minter's defense awesome. Khalil Mack was out in the last game. They're going to get healthier on the defensive side of the football. I just really trust Jim Harbaugh's culture. This football team, I still have question marks about the Ravens. We saw the playoff version of Lamar and the Ravens this past week. They got to pick it up.
Harbaugh versus Harbaugh, right? I mean, that's the game.
You're right.
Pete, you remember that Jack Kemp game back in 1960?
No, but I remember Jack Kemp.
Yeah.
He went out and became a congressman in the United States.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Let's remind you that this is your place for the NFL right here on CBS Sports HQ. If you're watching us on YouTube right now, like many of you do, check out our live stream on the CBS Sports app. We are talking NFL pretty much 24/7, 365 with news highlights, scores, breaking news. It's all right here on CBS Sports HQ. All right, how do the Chiefs bounce back? First loss in 15 games, and now you got to go and play the Carolina Panthers in Carolina, and it's a big number. The guys will pick it next. Expert picks presented by FanDuel as we look at the CBS slate. 4 early games, only one game in the 4 o'clock window. That's at 4:05. It's the Broncos at Raiders. The early games highlighted by the Chiefs at Panthers. Also have the Texans at home against the Titans. Let's start with that Chiefs game in Carolina with Kyle Long and Pete Prisco. 1 o'clock Eastern time on CBS. It's a big line, 10.5 for the Chiefs. Kyle, put yourself in those shoes. I mean, you're coming off your first loss of the season. Would you rather play a lowly team like the Panthers in maybe a quiet, sleepy road environment, or would you rather have a big game again?
You know, quite frankly, I don't think it matters who this Chiefs team plays. I think about the pressure that goes off of this team and, you know, the catharsis that happens when you finally lose that game after a huge winning streak. Now they get it out of the way. I expect this team to be fully refocused regardless of who they play. I feel bad for the Carolina Panthers, quite frankly, because I know what kind of practice environment that there's going to be at right outside of Arrowhead at the practice facility for the Chiefs. And Patrick Mahomes will be on his P's and Q's. Spags is going to make sure that there are no leaks in that defensive side of the football. Andy Heck's going to have this offensive line rocking and rolling in individual drills. I expect this team to come out and roll the Carolina Panthers. I love the Chiefs in this one.
If they beat the Bills last week, I think it's a different animal now. You might not be as focused, and you might take the 10 points. As it is here, I think they'll be focused, even though they're playing consecutive road games, and this is, you know, another one outside the division. I think Carolina is not very good. Bryce Young has looked better, but he's going to have problems with this defense. I'm going to take the Chiefs as well.
Pete, you said if the Chiefs could have beaten the Bills, you could really see them going unbeaten.
Right.
Does the loss, does it change the way you see the rest of the season for Kansas City?
No.
You think they're going to win every game from here on out?
Yes.
And still get the 1 seed?
Yes.
Okay.
They got to beat the Chargers at home.
But they will.
That's the big one. Another game, 1 p.m. Eastern on CBS. It's the Bucs at the Giants. And it's Tommy DeVito's first start of the season after they benched Daniel Jones.
Well, first and foremost, I think that Tommy DeVito does give you a better chance to win football games. He gives you that juice that we often talk about with the interim head coaches, with the backup quarterbacks. He truly is a guy that people in New York, they like him. They like this guy. They cheer for him. You can't argue with that fact.
He's Paisan, but he's not very good.
You can't argue with the fact that he's a Paisan. He's a perfect culture fit for this town.
Chicken cutlets and all that, I get it, but
he gives you a better chance because there haven't been, you know, calendar years of questioning this guy, and that's what it's been for Daniel Jones. But on the other side of the ball, Baker Mayfield, I mean, that's the guy that I love. Liam Cohen, he's been great for this Buccaneers group. They haven't been winning as much. They haven't had success in the win-loss column, but the offense has battled. They've had to reformulate how they have a plan of attack every single week because of injuries. I love the Buccaneers in this one.
I love the Buccaneers in this one. And by the way, the Buccaneers schedule, you look at it down the stretch, they had a chance to get into the postseason. They really are.
And the way the Falcons are playing, they could catch them.
And we haven't seen seen the best of the Bucs yet, and I think we'll start to see that as they get guys back in there. Mike Evans will be on his way back soon. They're getting healthier in the secondary. I think it's important for them to go win this game, and I think they will win this game. They will not let Tommy DeVito beat them.
Man, I thought you'd stick with your fellow Paisan.
Look, he's a Paisan. I hope he plays well, but it's a bad situation in New York for any quarterback. Let's be real.
All right, another 1 p.m. game on CBS. It's the Titans at the Texans, and the Texans, with that blowout win in Dallas on Monday night, they still hold that 2-game lead in the division despite being kind of touch and go the last month or so.
Yeah, and this is usually these teams get after it. They don't like each other too much. There's been some, give and take over the years in this, but I think what I saw from the Texans the other night was good. The offensive line played a little bit better. That they need that progress. I'm still a little concerned about C.J. Stroud. He hadn't played like he did a year ago. Mixon's running wild. Will Levis actually did some good things last week. If you go back and watch that game against Minnesota, the penalties destroyed any chance that the Titans had to win that game. They had a 4th down stop, got called for a penalty in the end zone. They went in and scored, had a long touchdown call back.
56 yards to Calvin Ridley, I think.
Called back on a lining up by the tackle. He was in the backfield. So they had mistakes go against them. Normally I would say take the 7, but I looked at this game. I see what Houston did on Monday night. I'll take the Texans.
Yeah, this one sketches me out a little bit because to your point, Will Levis, you and I know when he's right, man, he's right, and they could be explosive on offense. But for the Texans, it's still the Texans, and they proved something to me over the course of the last few weeks. Obviously, tough loss against the Lions, big get-back game against the Cowboys in definitive fashion. I like the Texans in this one simply because of the quarterback, C.J. Stroud.
Another 7-point spread. We have a few of them in a row here. It's the Patriots at the Dolphins, and a chance for the Dolphins, Pete, to get back within 1 game of 500 and keep their slim playoff hopes alive.
And I think they will. I think when you look at the Patriots, the one thing that they have to going for them is Drake May has shown a lot.
Yep.
I mean, for a guy playing behind a average offensive line with not so great receivers, he's done a lot of really good things. I'm impressed with him, and I think he'll play well here. But I think the Dolphins' offense will score. We saw what the Rams went and did against New England last week, throwing it all around. I think they'll throw it around in this one. I'll take Miami minus the points.
Yeah, I mean, when I say that it's obvious that the Dolphins are going to win this game, I can say that, but also be respectful of the fact that Drake May is an absolute horse and somebody that you can rely on and be excited about as a New England Patriots fan. Nobody thought that this was going to be the year for the New England Patriots. That being said, Miami Dolphins.
And that would get them to 5-6. It would be a 3rd straight win for the Dolphins after they got Tua back following that really tight game in Buffalo that they lost. Let's go to the hottest team in the NFL right now. It's the Detroit Lions. I mean, they're beating teams by 30, 40, 50 points. They're 7.5-point favorites at the Colts. Anthony Richardson looked really good last week.
Cam Newton 2.0.
Man, how about this matchup, though, against this Lions team that's humming?
Yeah, well, I mean, look, you're going to need every bit of what we saw from Anthony Richardson in this past game to show up against the Lions. Everybody in the stadium is, their money's probably on Detroit. But if you're Indianapolis, you got to think that with Anthony Richardson doing the right things in Shane Steichen's offense, you have at least somewhat of a chance. Obviously, I'm going to go Lions in this one. They are the best team in football. They actually blow teams out. It's not often in the NFL that blowouts happen, let alone a multitude of those. That they've had that this season. Give me the Detroit Lions.
The one thing you can count on is Goff and the offense will score points. We don't know if you'll see it again from Anthony Richardson. That's the unknown right now.
Yep.
You hope, if you're the Colts, you hope you can. You don't know if you can. We know the Lions will score. I think they score a lot here. I'll take the Lions in this spot.
That was the biggest spread of the season last week. The Lions kicked off as 14.5
Wasn't big enough.
Not even close to being big.
It was my best bet. I saw it coming a mile away.
You hit that thing out of the park, Pete. Let's move on to, oh God, the Bears. Bears hosting the Vikings. Bears 3.5-point favorites at home. I mean, we talked after the Commanders' heartbreaking loss, and you said that this team looks like, I mean, it's going to be hard to get back up from.
And then they allowed Thomas Brown to do some stuff. And the immediate impact was clear.
Sure.
I think when you
But you still haven't won. And now another heartbreaking loss.
Well, you know what? It's hard to say this, but there are moral victories in the NFL. And for all the doubts about Caleb Williams, for all the doubts about that quarterback, you would say that if he goes out there and plays the way he did last week, it's a good thing.
It was good to see him play well. It's still not a victory.
That being said, I'm taking the Bears.
Are you? Okay.
Yes.
You're taking it, why?
And I believe it.
Because of that moral victory against the Patriots.
Moral victory is going to keep him going.
I think that
you build on moral victories.
Sam Darnold will struggle against this secondary. I think Caleb Williams and Thomas Brown will have a good plan against pressure. The one thing that I noticed last week is he was playing absent of fear. When you're playing against a group that has 8 guys at the line of scrimmage, people flying all over the place, remiking, yada, 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 don't think, just play fast, get the ball out. Big plays will happen.
Did you copy Pete's homework? Because he was up in the newsroom screaming about how quarterbacks need to do more of that. Play without.
Me and Peter are on the same page about a lot of things. Not on this game.
You know what they're talking about in Chicago right now? Stacking up moral victories. That's what they're talking about.
Well, hey, stack up moral victories.
One moral victory, get another moral victory.
And you'll get a better draft.
Get your laughs in now about the Bears, because I'm going to sit at this desk next year and I'm going to be bullying you guys, okay?
But I will say that the Vikings didn't get any favors from the schedule maker. This is back-to-back road games. You ever play 3 straight road games in the NFL?
That's not good. I can't even remember, but it sounds awful.
It sounds terrible. Having said that, though, their defense will be able to throw a bunch of different looks at Caleb Williams and confuse him. He'll turn the ball over. I'm going to take the Vikings in this spot.
And then Bears have a short week because they've got the assignment to go to Detroit on Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. Okay. Let's move on to Cowboys and Commanders, the last game to pick that's at 1 o'clock. It's a 10-point spread. It's weird when you look at the Cowboys and all these games that they've gotten blown out in. They've all been at home. Like every road game has either been a win or a one-possession game.
This number looks really high, but after watching that version of the Cowboys, they put a lot into winning that game on Monday night. Now you're on a short week against a good division team. I think this gets ugly. I'll take the Commanders.
Yeah, I like the Commanders. My only question is, what's the deal with Jaden Daniels?
He's hurt.
Is he healthy?
No.
Is he hurt? Or is he just going through a tough spot as a rookie?
No,
because I saw him immediately after injury play one of the gutsiest performances I've ever seen against the Bears, taking shots to the ribs, continuing to go play, 65-yard Hail Mary, this, that, the other. What's going on with him now? Is it the same thing? Is it lingering? That being said, I love the Commanders. I like their football team. Dan Quinn's been awesome, and I think he gives them a dose of that Dan Quinn defense at home against the Cowboys.
Yeah, I think he's not driving the ball the way he did because of the rib injury, and he's not running the way he did.
Dan Quinn says he's not hurt.
I don't. Well, if he's not hurt, then that's even more concerning because he hasn't played this.
That's what I'm saying.
Have they figured out Cliff Kingsbury's offense? That's another thing. Late in the season, you've seen a history of that.
Remember, who was it that said Cliff Kingsbury? They run a nice college offense.
Yeah, and you know what? They figure it out.
If you look at secondary, remember that?
If you look at the history, of his teams over the years, they've fallen off down the stretch.
Okay, those are the 1 p.m. Eastern time games against the spread from Pete Prisco and Kyle Long, who pair up nicely on Tuesdays on Pushing the Pile with Mike Renner. Pete can always be heard on Tuesdays as they try to build the perfect player. This week it was
defensive end, the pass rusher.
Edge rushers.
Edge rusher. Lawrence Taylor involved at all?
No, these are with
modern players. I thought
pretty much
take us back
picture of Miles.
I would take Lawrence Taylor over anybody.
Anybody. Oh, right.
I got Howie Long.
You're prejudiced.
Up next, we are picking the late afternoon games on Sunday, including the 49ers going to Green Bay, well, limping into Green Bay, really, to face the Packers. Expert picks presented by FanDuel. We have 3 more games to go, plus our best bets. Only one late afternoon game this Sunday on CBS. That's the Broncos coming off that blowout win against the Falcons. They're in Vegas against the Raiders. Packers hosting the 49ers, and the Seahawks hosting the Cardinals, a big game in the NFC West. We'll start in the AFC West. Chris Hassel, Kyle Long, Pete Prisco. Broncos 4.5-point favorites against the Raiders. And right now the Broncos holding on to that last wild card spot in the AFC.
Offensive Rookie of the Year, Bo Nix? Question mark. If he keeps
in the conversation.
I mean, the guy's been unbelievable, and we saw
Jaden Daniels has come back to the field.
Yeah, he's come down to earth a little bit. And Bo Nix last week, I think it was like 300 yards, 4 touchdowns, big win. The guy is playing great football. That team is playing really well. The defense has been a lot of fun to watch, but it all comes back to getting you're squeezing the most juice out of Bo Nix in his rookie year. Sean Payton's been awesome. I love them in this matchup against the Raiders, and a little taste of what's to come in the division, right? I mean, you got to go beat this team and let them understand that you are the big bros.
Sean Payton's been phenomenal calling the offense for Bo Nix. I mean, they scheme him open, and he does a great job of getting the football. There are actually some nice throws in the middle of the field, which you hadn't seen last week against Atlanta. I love what I see from him, but I think this is a tough task going out on the road in division. The Raiders, you know, Crosby will have those guys going after him in that game. and I don't know if they're good enough offensively to lay this kind of lumber on the road. So I will take the Raiders plus the points. And you know me.
You never know in the
Gardner
AFC
Minshew.
West.
You know I love Gardner Minshew. So I'm taking Minshew and the points in this game.
That was on CBS, 4:05 Eastern time. 4:25 Eastern is 49ers and Packers. And this is the first game all season, if it kicks off this way, the first game where the Niners are going to be underdogs this year.
That's wild.
That is wild. That's incredible. But that tells you where they are as a football team right now, too. In large part because of the
expectations versus reality.
Yeah, in large part because of the injuries. He's getting so choked up over this. The Niners and Packers.
They're going to be
okay.
I'm just talking about the Niners, and all of a sudden I'm ailing.
You're allergic to bad football, I guess, because they're not playing very well. The Packers haven't looked like the Packers either. They're going to start looking like them. I think that's going to start in this game. We saw last year in the postseason. Jordan Love was fantastic against that 49ers defense. I think he'll play well here. I'll take the Packers.
Yeah, you can see it on the graphic right here. Defense before and after the Nick Bosa injury, and how important a defensive player like Nick Bosa is in ruining game plans. When he came out, it was like they could just move the football down the field at will. But this Green Bay Packers team, obviously big win in division against a rival this past week against the Bears on a blocked field goal. We could be having a different conversation about this team. Also, some things that were concerning. Red zone woes for the Packers. A turnover, a 4th and 2 failed conversion. You can't have that in a matchup against the 49ers. That being said, I still like the Packers.
I was seeing where you were going.
I still like the Packers in this one.
I'm looking at his paper. It says Packers.
You got to go play at Lambeau. This is about the time of year where Lambeau starts to get that allure. He gets that aura when you walk in the building.
You get those hunters in there with the orange outfits on.
We're in season right now. You know what I'm saying?
Little cheese curds in the bag as you
Bill
sneak them into the stadium.
says football season doesn't start till after Thanksgiving. Well, it's like once hunting season starts in Lambeau.
That is right now.
That's when it gets the aura.
One more game to pick. It's way out west. It's a big divisional game between the first place Cards and the Seahawks. And look, if the Seahawks win this game, we could be going into next week with a 4-way tie atop that division.
It's crazy, and I think this thing is going to play out through the entire process of the rest of the season because San Francisco plays at Arizona the final week of the season, Seattle and the Rams. So, and they're all right together. I think Arizona goes up and wins this game. They're coming off a bye. They played 49ers last week, Seattle. That's tough. They're always physical games. You beat each other up, and now you got a team coming off a bye. Arizona has done a great job. Those coaching staff, that coaching staff is what they've done. Petzik's done a great job with the offense. I think Relis has done a nice job with the defense. I love what they've done. I'll take the Cardinals.
Yeah, Arizona Cardinals, man, they're so much fun. Such a physical team, but also on the other end of the spectrum, they have so much athletic ability. You look at the outside with the receiver position with their young guy, Harrison Jr., but also at the quarterback position. When you've got a guy like Kyler Murray,
playing great,
who's playing MVP level football, okay? He's like knocking at the door of being in that conversation. If this was the Heisman, ceremony, he'd be on the stage. You know what I mean? He would at least be sitting next to the guy who wins it. I think that's a great thing for the Arizona Cardinals. It bodes well for their future, but also right now. They're really hot, and I just think coming off of the way that Seattle won last week, such an emotional high to finish that game, it's tough to string those things together. I like the Cardinals.
They play tough and physical on defense, and their offensive line is really playing well. That's one thing that people don't talk about is how good their offensive line is playing.
Okay. That leaves us with only best bets. We call them Prisco's Picks, presented by FanDuel. And man, we were really good last week. Now Pete and I are above 500. Kyle is 9-2. The producers starting to work their way back, potentially getting it back to 500 by the end of the season.
They're back in it.
They've won 2 in a row to get it to 4-7. Last week, we were great on HQ all across the board from.
Hey, clap it up for HQ there.
Look at that.
To Sunday shows.
You parlay that, you won a lot of money.
Look at Tommy, little teaser, Tommy teaser.
I did parlay it.
That's
you
right.
know what? I quit.
Tommy's always puts a teaser in, so you can't put the parlay in with his pick.
I miss Tommy.
And then Todd, how about Todd coming through as well from Vegas on Seahawks +6, and they end up winning outright in San Francisco. So that's our first sweep of the season. We were 6-0 across the board.
Todd.
Who wants to lead us off?
How about I'll lead it off?
Okay, since you're on top of the board.
With the Lions, -7.5 at Indianapolis. I don't know if Anthony Richardson can have that kind of production 2 weeks in a row, and even if he did, it wouldn't be enough to cover this number against the Detroit Lions.
You don't really love it, though.
Oh, I love it. I actually got it tatted.
I'm taking the Rams. I just think they're sitting there. Everybody's talking about the Eagles and the Rams being with Sean McVay and Stafford, and that passing game being what it is. I know the Eagles have played really well on defense. This is a tough matchup. No matter how good you are on defense, I think McVay will scheme something up. I'll take the Rams.
In a primetime game, Rams +3. I don't feel as good about my pick as I did when I gave it to producer Jack before the show, because you guys have almost convinced me it's going the other way. But I'm going to stick with it. I'm not going to flip-flop. Seahawks -1.5 at home against the Cardinals. I think that division is going to tighten up even more. I feel like the Cardinals are due for a loss, even though they're coming off the bye. And the Seahawks got a lot of momentum last week against the 49ers.
Jackson Smith and Jigba, huge part of that offense. You saw it last week. He's up over 30% of their target share.
Defense looked much better.
And I love the crowd. The 12's up there in Seattle.
12s!
Producers trying to win their third straight. The pick this week, Texans -7.5 against the Titans.
That's scary. That's a scary game you're playing.
There's some of these best bets are laying some lumber.
Scary.
You and them.
Yeah, a lot of lumber.
Wait, look, I'm not going to criticize
more than
Kyle.
a touchdown.
He's looking to get to 10 wins already this season. Trying to get to 10-2 with the Lions -7.5.
One game at a time.
At the Colts.
He's going to start a tout service soon.
Pete's on the Rams +3 against the Eagles at home. I'm on the Seahawks -1.5 against the Cards. That's in Seattle and the producers. On the Texans -7.5 at home against the Titans.